There's a lot of things in life that are difficult. Are you going to be one of those guys that are going to go and back off every time something is difficult? Or do you want to be one of those guys that says, look, it doesn't matter if it's easy or difficult. I'm going to go and crush through it. That's me. That's the person that I want to be. And I'm going to prove it to myself, and I'm going to prove it to the rest of the world.
I like this quote a lot. I think Big Arnie here encapsulates perfectly the message behind most common secrets to success and the typical tropes inspiring some motivation to succeed. I feel like it highlights two main points that we've all seen time and time again. The first one is to be the type of person who attacks challenges. You must face hard work and you must overcome it. As he said, difficulty is no concern to someone who succeeds. The second point you might have missed at the end there is to prove it. Prove that you are the one who stops at nothing to achieve success. You have to show not only your peers, but yourself as well that you are a hard worker and determined. These 2 points exist in 1,000 different forms and are championed by your John Cenas, your Elon Musks, and your Dwayne "The Rock" Johnsons. They equate to the main theme of the video, that you have to have hard work and determination. The message is undoubtedly powerful, but what exactly is the extent to which this applies in real life? Like, just for starters, it's hard to imagine how full effort and power and commitment can lead to success in more mundane journeys like getting more restful sleep or learning how to cook. The message is geared towards long hours, cold showers, and grinding at the gym at 4 a.m. Physical feats of following your dreams seems to be the norm. All of our motivational advice seems to come from this tiny subsector of goals people want to achieve. And I'm not so convinced that blood, sweat, and tears are required for everything. I think there's a way to translate what is meant by hard work and determination into something that's more universally actionable. Another thing that bothers me is how luck plays into it, or rather how it doesn't. There's never been a good reason as to why, if hard work and determination is all you need for success, why so many success stories seem to be so lucky. What we want is to make it make sense for all applications of success and account for all that weirdness. I believe that there's a way to do this, to tweak the message into something that can more closely reflect reality, without losing the core idea behind it. But one point of view could be to counter and tell me, Mason, I agree that there might be a few inconsistencies, but these guys are just spewing loose motivation. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. It's just the idea to try your best in life, which could be true. There are surely a ton of times where it's supposed to be more of a pep talk than real advice.
Hey, you can do anything you put your mind to. Never give up on your dreams. Keep smiling. No matter what you're going through, if you fall down, just get up. If you can't get up.
But I don't think it's like that here. I think the super successful are trying to tell us something. And if there is value in their experience, then we would do well to deconstruct, maybe decipher and translate them to find a more helpful version of hard work and determination. But to do that, there needs to be an important distinction in the video, that being the difference between the idea and the message. The idea is the thing in their head, which led them to the success. They know some information which is pure and impactful. The message is that stuff that comes out of their mouth, the idea you get as the listener. The message can be miscommunicated or misunderstood, so it's better to refer to it as like a generalized version of the original idea. This distinction is a real pain in philosophy, whether or not we can share metaphysical ideas through the imperfect translation that is language, or in this case, our message. I make the distinction because if we consume a new message, it might better reflect the idea that they had in their head that they wanted to share, and thus better reflect reality and their experience and whatnot. Still with me, I hope. We don't like the message hard work and determination, so we want to scrap it for parts and reset so it might be more helpful advice. Now, I have some explaining to do. What specifically is wrong or left wanting in the original message beyond just its scope? Most people like to say that for success you need to be a hard worker, or be determined, or consistent, savvy, punctual, optimistic, cooperative, etc. We like to think that if we possess these qualities, if we are that guy pal, then success will just knock at our door. This understanding of success subscribes to a larger notion of identity. Sociological identity is defining yourself according to the role you play in society. So if you play the role of breadwinner in your social group or your family, then you might identify yourself as successful and a provider. This in turn creates an expectation that you will continue to behave in a way that would be congruent with who you are. Arnold expressed this aspect of the message perfectly. Identify yourself as a hard worker and prove to your peers and yourself that you do as a hard worker does. Identity and imagining your character can be a great thing, and more often than not, it will lead to more confidence. Think of yourself as a doer and a conqueror who can achieve anything because you're the best. This motivates you to work harder if the message is to hold true. But this identity classification is a two-way street, and it's hard to know which way is right. The problem is when you take some blunder or mistake and then you identify yourself as inadequate or not working hard enough as a result. At worst, it will create pressure and stress to succeed, which makes you perform worse. And at best, you acknowledge your shortcomings and work even harder the next time. The winner mentality is then to work harder every time you fail. But this kind of creates a vacuum where no work is ever good enough. When everything rides on how successful you or others perceive you to be, then it seems kind of contradictory to preach to push past failure, but also to be a winner. In a way, it suggests that the only way to be a winner is to be fueled by failure. We want to continually push past our limits, but it's unclear as to how much is too much in pursuit of our goal.
And I was like, why am I playing like crap? Because I've been practicing these same moves over and over and over. But yet, I couldn't execute them properly. I was feeling sluggish, I was feeling lethargic, and I knew it wasn't because of my training, because I had trained obsessively. Maybe the fact that you're sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night, maybe that has something to do with the fact that you're playing like crap.
The message tells us we should exert maximum effort, as if it's assumed a priori, or that it's objective what maximum effort is to look like. The reality is, how we define ourselves before we reach success is arbitrary. We can never truly know if we're doing everything we can to succeed. Whether or not we consider ourselves hardworking and determined is based more in confidence than it is on some defined work ethic. Self-image shouldn't really belong in this conversation, and I think that might be the idea, but not the message as it currently exists. The message is saying in order to win, you need to be a winner, which is funky. Coach in the locker room might have good reason to tell you to play like a champion, but that's not really sensical advice beyond just getting juiced and pumped tight and excited. Instead of trying to pump you up, we want to build skills and acquire knowledge for success. The identity stuff is problematic for its undefined boundaries of work, but also has some tools which can be helpful for getting skills. The message promotes, if nothing else, the idea to keep working. Just keep swimming. This is the determination aspect, the push through failure, the never quit, etc. And obviously, if you never give up, you will never ultimately fail. Never stopping is the classic way to think about it, but I prefer the reverse, to always keep going. They are basically the same thing, but the alternate perspectives may influence how you act. Possessing good habits, for example, is just like the identity that we mentioned in the message. Habits are something that you obtain, and so the language suggests that once you have it, it's yours to lose, or that you choose to stop. This is why keeping up or building habits can be stressful, and there's a fear of losing your progress, because it's considered a tangible thing. But in reality, the consistency of action doesn't physically exist. What's actually creating the progress is the individual task, and the sum of its parts make the whole. I prefer the perspective that success comes from a utilization of a process. rather than about what we think we are or what we think we have. Imagine you think of something you want, maybe a skill or a circumstance or a feeling, whatever. And then think of one thing that you could do right now that would get you even just a little bit closer to the thing you want. You test out this task and you see how useful it was towards getting that goal. Maybe you don't learn much and you start again with a different task or the same one. The point is to constantly learn and assess what you want and reflect on if things are helping or if things aren't. This creates a lot more clarity to understand what our capabilities and limitations are as they are defined by our actions, not the other way around. This process is cyclical and relies on your conscious choice to start up the process again, and being determined is in the picture, but it looks a lot more like a willful desire to continue, rather than just refusing to stop working. Can you hear the difference in messages? I'm trying to articulate that the classic approach feels very stagnant and ceremonial. It deals in traits and qualities that are simply a part of you. But this process-based approach is much more active. It deals in experimentation and reflection. The reality is that what hard work and determination actually looks like is going to be the exact same for both. You'll still need to do the same work and make the correct choices to succeed. But I think this perspective allows you to better understand the steps you need to take in order to get there. That's literally what it's built to do, to create a foundation for understanding reality. The core idea behind it is not mine, it's not revolutionary, it's not flashy. It's just the scientific method as applied to achieving success. You make a guess and test it. You see the results and then you reflect to see if it got you closer to your task or not, and then you repeat the process. The whole time you're learning what you want, learning what tasks are good versus bad, and learning how to do those tasks. It's not rocket science, but it's still hard work. Lots of times your hypothesis will be an utter fail. Ideas for tasks you thought were great will actually suck, and you're going to have to try a bunch of new and random stuff a lot of the time and see how it all adds up before you can actually start building something. The classic message is that the road to success is long and narrow and tough, and that the weak just prefer to take the easy way out. But this fails to account for why a lot of people don't actually succeed. The assumption is that people who don't find success just gave up, that it's just too hard for them. But this idea gets clowned on a lot, the notion to simply pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It's just not a viable explanation for the differences between achievers and underachievers. If you look at an impoverished place, it's not a simple matter of just becoming more determined, as many people who don't find success are extremely resilient and have to work really hard just to even survive. Most evidence suggests that there isn't a big disparity between the average work week of different classes. The classic identity-based approach needs to create these classifications that some people just have a superior work ethic than others. But obviously there are countless counterexamples. But a process-based perspective can account for this fact. Poverty can then be viewed as an educational gap rather than a capacity to try gap. If success and hard work really requires experimentation, then it also requires risk and time to make mistakes. If you don't have excess resources to try new things and learn from them, then it seems unlikely on how you'll come to learn how to acquire excess resources. This is why I prefer the analogy that the road to success is not long, but invisible. It's something that needs to be discovered by poking your way through the dark. Each step reveals the next ad infinitum. You need to figure out the next steps by a process of trial and error. And over time, you'll start to get a feeling for which steps are better than others and which ones you should repeat more often. And of course, if you haven't taken a step, then you're kind of at a loss on where to start. You don't know yet that the more you do in the pursuit of success, the more apparent it becomes what you have to do. I also like how this perspective relates to luck. The hard work is the learning that you get from the tasks and the tests, and no amount of luck can actually influence how much you learn and how much you're able to reflect from your mistakes. The hard work to reflect is all on you. So luck and hard work exist completely separately in this perspective. The luck aspect actualizes itself through the results of the test, not your learning from those results. Tasks you decide to do on a whim will obviously sometimes get you closer to your goal than others. You don't decide on something you're going to do assuming that it's going to be your greatest opportunity. You just do your thing and something surprising happened. Any task has this chance of blowing up and being the one step which can reveal a ton of the path ahead of you. It's basic math. If every task has a 1% chance of being really helpful to you, and you do 100 tasks, then you're guaranteed to at least hit it one time. Well, like 63% of the time, but you get the idea. The more times you experiment, the more opportunity you have to hit it big. I hate that quote, the harder I work, the luckier I seem to be, because it's not really about increasing your odds, it's just that you can't win a bet that you don't make. But I do not condone gambling. The luck you get in this light is not random. If I uploaded a 10-minute YouTube video of a black screen, there's no amount of luckiness or chance that would allow that to be a successful task for me. Luck is best considered as some other nonsense, as being at the right place at the right time. Some choice you make towards a goal is always going to be successful or always going to be a bust. It's basically predetermined. All you have to do is find out which ones are going to be successful. Easier said than done. This is why we have to stumble upon them by accident. And some people get too lucky too quickly, and they don't have the skills to understand and reflect on them to continually develop new ideas and progress from that initial fruitful step. But we will never have enough information to be able to predict how success happens. So it's important to be ready and learn what to do when it does come. It's about a capacity to adapt to the fortune that you find, just as successful people often seem molded by the opportunities that they're given. And finally, I like this quote from Kobe's book, which kind of mends the perspective of experimenting and the classic go-getter message. As a kid, I would work tirelessly on adding elements to my game. I would see something I liked in person or on film, go practice it immediately, practice it more the next day, and then go out and use it. By the time I reached the league, I had a short learning curve. I could see something, download it, and have it down pat. It's essential to continue working, trying new things, pivoting, and reflecting on the knowledge that we find along the way. It's a great process of self and world discovery. It's scientific in nature, and it's rooted in our most fundamental understanding of building a wealth of knowledge. Instead of hard work and determination, maybe it would be better to say experimentation and pivoting, or something. Okay, thanks. Bye.